Now, we're up and running.
All right, and welcome to episode 6 of Mythical Monster Investigations, where we're going to be looking over zombies.
Holy crap,
Now,
are we on 6? Oh shit, it's 6, technically.
yeah, it's
Well,
6.
5 if which is supposed to be just one episode of full, so either
Yeah,
one.
but true, but it was a split in 2 episodes, so technically it's episode 6.
Okay.
I'm going by how many we do.
That works.
Um, yeah, okay, so where was I? Okay, so zombies are unique amongst the Hollywood monsters, as this monster is different from the Hollywood vampire and the Hollywood werewolf in the fact that zombies are actually completely real. Now, that might sound strange, which it does sound strange, but it is true. But the thing is, it's not the version that comes to mind. Now, of course, the modern definition of a zombie is an undead being created through the reanimation of a human corpse as a mindless, clumsy, and ravenous beast which consumes human flesh and especially brains, which means most people nowadays would be completely fine. Anyway, besides being real, the zombie bears another distinction that is unique to it in that Hollywood is actually not completely responsible for its exaggeration over the years, which is odd. But also in the fact that zombie in itself, the zombie is actually a relatively new monster. It's not very old. In fact, the word zombie or zombie was mentioned only about was only first recorded in 1819 in a book called The History of Brazil, which was done by an English poet. Uh, didn't read the book, kind of dull, but that was the first recorded mention of the word zombie. And voodoo zombies didn't get mentioned until about 1929 in the book The Magic Island, as the narrator actually accounts meeting voodoo cults in Haiti and accounts meeting all of that. And that's what really kind of started this. Now, however, the zombie that we have, the flesh eating zombie, that wouldn't come about until Hollywood really got its teeth into it. But before we had that, we did have other representations of zombies around the world. Before that, though, out of curiosity, had either of you two ever heard of the book A History of Brazil or The Magic Islands?
No to
No.
both.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. They're old books and obviously not extremely popular. I mean, honestly, I don't think that you would really know them unless you really liked history or just oldish literature. But of course, everybody's heard of the zombie genre and the flesh eating zombies. But zombies around the world are actually very confined. Like, most people will have myths of certain monsters. Zombies, not as much. Nowadays, everybody knows who zombies are because of Hollywood. But as far as deep down myth goes, there's only a couple. One being in Haiti, if we'll go into further detail a bit later on, and there's a couple in Congo and some of the Caribbean islands, which Congo doesn't, and this parts of Africa doesn't really have a zombie per se. It has something kind of close. One such thing is the Jumbi, which I don't think I'm pronouncing it right, but the Jombi, which isn't necessarily a zombie. It's more of an African malevolent spirit. When you talk about zombies in Africa, you're going to get more of talks of generic malevolent spirits, generic evil, um, bad monsters, things like that, and not the flesh-eating creatures. No, South Africa um, also has these types of things. They have two monsters in South Africa which are similar to it. They have names, but I'm not going to lie, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce these things because they're so out there, and I'm going to butcher them. Like, my tongue might actually get knotted up trying to say them. So Just
What
stress that there are South African deities.
what
What?
about Jogger?
Jogger?
Jogger, those are Norse, I guess. It's tough because I've seen stories where they've been referred to as spirits, and then other time where they've been referred to as undead.
Oh, in Norse mythology,
Mm-hmm.
mostly spirits, but they're more of They're recalled warriors, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no one ever really thought of them as. They're not like really zombies. They're more of a revenge curse.
Yeah, that's why. A reason I bring them up is because if you remember when we used to do Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, the
Yeah.
zombies you saw was Joggers.
Yes, true.
So
But
that's why I'm bringing in how modern media is.
yeah, no. Again, that's why zombies are popular today is because of modern media, except what they should be. But again, that shows a good thing. But that's also kind of the public mindset of zombies, where well, they are a reanimated corpse, which, believe it or not, does tie in with the original myth. But like I said, in South Africa, it's not really clear about zombies. So, like I said, they have the deities that I mentioned, but you could become South Africa may have been influenced by people coming over from Haiti. It may have been influenced from other cultures, so that's why it's a little ambiguous. For instance, South Africa says that you can be zombified by a small child, or witches can zombify someone by killing them and then possessing the body, basically turning them into kind of a skin suit, which I guess would be their explanation for what would happen to someone if they started acting drastically different. Or, someone did something really bad and said, no, witch possessed me, and that's why I did this, which I guess is just kind of the witch trial scenario all
Yeah,
over
no,
again.
this is witch trials now.
And then, even weirder with South Africa is the witch trains, which were apparently trains that came in, which were uh, actually staffed and controlled by zombie workers made by the witch. And I am told for those of us on YouTube that Shadow R Fox has an image for this, which I could. Oh, forgot what is that? What is that?
You asked for a witch train. I found a witch train.
That is in no way what I meant.
Well, it's what you get.
Yeah. It's modern day witch train.
It does he have pineapple rings on his
I
eyes?
think so. I think someone made a. I think this from
And is
what
he
I
wearing
can.
bright red lipstick? Is
So-
that even a he?
No, it's not he. It looked like someone made a very bad blackface doll witch doctor.
I was about to say it looks like a black-faced doll witch doctor.
It is. It straight up is. I'm like, what the? When me and Zed found this, we were like, what the shit?
Oh, wow.
That's what got me is that's what came up for Witch Train on Google.
Seriously?
Yeah.
This is what Kate. All right, I looked up witch train. I didn't see this.
I was digging to look for images of a witch train.
Uh.
And this was the one that I stuck with because I'm like, you know what? It's a witch on a train, technically.
Okay, I think you need to give a disclaimer at this point.
Like I am technically black, so
Technically.
I don't know. They may revoke my black card after that. For those on the podcast, just be happy you can't see this. You're avoiding a couple probably hate crimes.
You probably. I let you do one thing.
You asked for an image. I found the image.
I said I couldn't find an image. You took that as a challenge.
I found something.
Okay. I give you credit. You found something.
I'm
Okay.
happy I did not make that.
No, I'm glad you didn't make that. Who even thinks of that?
I had to take a couple of looks at a couple of takes because first time I saw it, I thought it was an actual person. And then I looked closer, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not person. That's just someone made a blackface dummy, put it on the subway, and made it look like a witch doctor.
It looks like some of the old racist cartoons with the black people with the overly huge lips.
It straight up does, and pineapple eyes. Jesus.
I know, like,
Well, no, for those of you wondering on the podcast, well, it literally did look like a cartoon blackface character from the old Looney Tune films. Oh, if you've ever seen I Love Lucy and you saw the episode where little Ricky was born, Ricardo had to dress up like a witch doctor, and he looked very much like that. He even was, I think, in blackface.
I'm sorry, what?
You never seen I Love Lucy where
No.
Oh shoot. Yeah, so yeah, basically he was put on a show where he was I think he was actually playing as a Haitian witch doctor. And he
Well,
basically
damn. No, I only saw a few episodes of I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Well, well, damn. Okay. That's impressive. I'm amazed they were. No, wait. I Love Lucy. They would have been able to get that.
No, they got away with that. It was like it was very iconic. And
Oh, I'll bet.
yeah, you would bet. Hang on. This needs to be shown now.
Oh, really? We're gonna show this? You know what? I should have lied. Seen it.
It's not. Considering what I just shown, this is tame by comparison.
Oh yeah, you know me. I don't care that. Wow, seriously?
Yep.
Actually, I'm impressed. The makeup's pretty good. I wouldn't recognize that as him.
Yeah, it was funny because the whole joke of the scene was people saw his face and they got scared shitless.
I can't imagine why.
Imagine that. Yeah, imagine that showing up to a nursing ward with a bunch of nurses.
That would. Man, now I need to go watch that episode.
It's a good episode. I recommend it for people who want to see it.
Okay, I Love Lucy recommendation. Okay, I got something out of this. All right, already this podcast is a success.
Oh, I'm gonna have a bunch of those going on for this episode.
Sounds fun. Okay, so those things are kind of zombie-ish, but they're not exactly zombies. They're not really the zombie mythos because that's just it. Zombies isn't that widespread of a myth. Like, honestly, if you went outside of zombies, the closest thing you could really find to it, other than, the Viking warriors, is kind of, as far as animated corpses go, would be the legend of vampires. It's not, aside from not being very old, it's not very widespread. Like, another claim that people talk about, as far as reference to zombies goes, is they'll mention ancient Mesopotamia, and particularly the goddess Ishtar, who was a fertility goddess. And you're probably wondering, like, why the heck is a fertility goddess have anything associated with zombies? Well, it's because while she never directly says the word zombies or really talks about the creatures, she does have a claim where she's going to claim to raise the dead, and that they shall devour the living, and the dead will outnumber the living, which, if I'm not wrong, has been used in several variations in modern media. Right? Has it not? Does that statement not sound familiar? That the dead shall rise and outnumber the living? Because I know I've heard that in different movies.
Was that Ghostbuster?
Yeah, it was also Ghostbusters.
Because I remember they mentioned Mesopotamian, but I think they made up a god for that one. But it sounded very close to Ishtar right now.
Yeah, no, they made up Gozer, but no, that's what. So Ishtar has that. She says that in her story, and also she also talks about it in the most famous of ancient Mesopotamia works and stories, possibly one of the very first stories out there, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Which I really hope I said that. But it had the same line in it, which, if anyone's read the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's a fascinating story with
Kind of
honestly a
unfinished.
couple of sorry, yeah, with also kind of a few tangents that kind of don't lead anywhere, including a story that's oddly similar to the story of Noah and the Ark, which honestly does nothing for the story. Like they could remove it and it really won't change the story. The Epic of Gilgamesh is kind of, I'm not gonna lie. If anyone's ever read it, like it's an interesting story, but it is kind of odd.
Well, yeah,
But
it's super odd. I mean,
yeah,
if you're looking at the image currently from the YouTube video, Gilgamesh on the right and that's Enkidu on the left. Yes, he does have horn. He's I believe, if memory serves, a made by the gods from clay to be a beast-like half-man who will have the stamina to go toe-to-toe with Gilgamesh and
who we
possibly beat
later
him.
befriends and they become besties.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, it's weird, and if it's ever requested, we'll do a video looking at some possible inspirations of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Because Gilgamesh, why do I keep pronouncing that one? Gilgamesh, because I think it'd be an interesting video to go over some. But anyway, so these are the closest representations of zombies that are not directly from its source origin. Now, for zombies, we know the source origin. There is one place in particular that zombies come from, but we're going to look at that a little bit more later in this video. First thing, the modern day zombie. Like I said, Hollywood is not completely responsible for the exaggeration of it, but it's promoted it. It is the reason it's so extensive today, the genre being that, but it was originally introduced very slowly. It was introduced through books which got into the public mind, such books as Frankenstein, written by Mary Shelley. Believe it or not, if you're ever asked who the grandfather of science fiction is, where most people will say Jules Verne or H.G. Wells, the real answer is actually Mary Shelley. The reason being, although Frankenstein is a horror book and a horror novel, and was written as a horror novel for a contest, it is technically the first book about science running amok, about science doing something that science is not capable of doing, which is creating a man, creating a new life, which is why it's also called the modern Prometheus. So technically, Frankenstein is technically the first science fiction. But this introduced us to. Sorry, go ahead.
When did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde come out? Or would that not count?
It wouldn't really count because, if anyone's ever read the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's more of, it's a chemical analysis of good and evil. So Jekyll literally brings out an evil version of him, which actually started out as a dwarf. He was very short, and then later he started gaining more and more power until eventually the serum wasn't even needed to bring him about anymore. 1886. That's when Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde came.
Okay.
But yeah, it had nothing to do with zombies. It was
no, it didn't. Just in terms of science, I always thought that would be a one of the first sci-fi horrors, just because he's using a chemical compound to change himself into something else.
Yes, but I believe Mary Shelley's came out first.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, hold on one second.
I can pull it up.
1818.
Okay, so yeah, it came out way earlier.
Yeah, I should have figured that, but I just didn't remember the exact date. But yeah, so again, this is one of the books that kind of introduced the zombie into modern day mindset with a reanimated corpse, which technically Frankenstein is not exactly that. Yeah, I know what the movies say, but if anyone has ever read the book is different from the movies. The biggest thing being that the monster was actually superbly intelligent and not a blithering idiot. But nor was he afraid of fire. I'm sorry, that was Hollywood because, well, the book's more interesting. But anyway, that was one of them. And also the works of H.P. Lovecraft. he had a few mentions of zombies in his works. Of course, H.P. Lovecraft, known mostly for Cthulhu, was a big horror writer. Um, but these were books that kind of introduced this idea of undead corpses coming to life. Well, undead corpse is that of corpses rising up and doing things, seeking revenge or anything else, and being a general monster. And here is where movies then take over, starting with Night of the Living Dead, which premiered in 1968, and it was the first example of flesh-eating zombies. And I think Shadow R. Fox can talk more about this than I can.
Yes, because
Because
apparently
I've
I
actually
was the
never
only
seen it.
one who saw this movie. Jeez, and
Yeah.
get some culture, people. Oh my goodness. So Night of the Living Dead, the zombies, this has a lot of, this is a big one in popular media. Namely because this is the first zombie movie, where, or at least the first mainstream zombie movie where zombies are brought to life not by magic, but by a scientific anomaly. In this case, it was caused by the radiation from a meteorite that crashed into Earth.
Seriously, radiation, that's not counted as magic?
No,
Because it's a space rock, that means automatically,
well,
it came from space, so it's science.
well, no,
But if it was any other type of rock, it would have been magic.
they claim
But space rock equals science.
no, Alchemist, because they said radiation.
So bullshit magic radiation that somehow does this
I'm
is
sorry,
not at all magic.
I haven't met the witch who used radiation magic yet.
There is probably a radiation.
There is, but not in this point. Not in this point. No.
Radiation doesn't even do that.
Well, maybe because we haven't found the right space radiation.
Continue.
Yeah, you can't really dispel. Up till then, and let me see if I can get the images for those. What zombies had, I haven't seen any of these, but I knew these existed.
I did not know these existed.
That zombies up to this point was all done by magic. White Zombie was yeah, I know it sounds very very sketchy of a title, but that one is about a guy who goes to a plantation that is run entirely by zombies, and he's trying to enlist the person who created the zombies to help him get married to a woman. Tomb of the Blind Dead is apparently a little bit more towards the Draugr side, in the sense of it's a bunch of knights who was killed and cursed and then brought back to life. And I haven't seen either one of these, but essentially that one's also referred to as a zombie movie. So again, I knew up before Night of the Living Dead, zombies, at least in my mind, zombie was always magical. It was until I saw Night of the Living Dead that zombies was more of scientific, well, quote, sci-fi scientific base in terms of bringing something back to life using other means than magic, such as disease, or in the case of Night of the Living Dead, radiation.
Bullshit radiation.
Well, bullshit radiation, but again,
on a side note, real quick,
Yeah.
White Zombie features Bela Lugosi, the original Count Dracula. So I found that interesting. So I might actually check this one.
Yeah, he plays, I believe, the guy who is the evil voodoo doctor, or at least the guy in. I think he's the guy who owned the plantation that the voodoo doctor works on.
Either one, I could see him playing. But yeah, so, but again, that's how Hollywood has interpreted zombies. And I'm guessing this, for those of you watching YouTube, the image on it, I'm guessing is from the Night of the Living Dead?
Yes, that's one of the iconic scene from the Night of the Living Dead when they're shuffling towards the house. Again, very good movie. It, like a lot of the zombie tropes that we know of, such as zombies being in a horde, zombies moving slowly, people just getting up from the dead, shooting them in the head or having to burn their bodies. All of that was zombies eating people. All of that was Night of the Living Dead. George Romero started like all of that stuff. So a lot of the tropes that we know of today started from that movie.
Yep, and it created its own genre that is worldwide to this day. I mean, zombies are everywhere now. I mean, even if you're not a zombie fan, you definitely have probably seen a zombie movie some point of your life. I mean, Zed, you've seen at least one zombie movie, right?
Have I?
Wait, have you not seen a zombie movie?
You surely have seen at least
28
one.
Days Later.
Nope.
No 28 Days Later. No Dawn of the Dead, Zombieland,
No.
Walking
No.
Dead, Shaun of the
No.
Dead.
No. I don't think
this
I've
might
seen
go
a
on.
single zombie movie.
Well, you still know what zombies are. You know
Yeah,
of
I
a
know what they
zombie.
are. I lived through 2012. I know what they are.
There you go. And oh yeah, the
Wait,
World War Z,
really fast. Let me see if I can get all of these zombie posters
Pride
up.
and Prejudice and Zombies. Which just say Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I saw before that movie came out. I actually saw that book in the bookstore. I legit thought it was fake. I thought it was a gag book. You know, they open it, it's just Pride and Prejudice or something. Until I saw the trailer for the movie, I'm like, there is no way. I literally drove to the bookstore, grabbed that book. I'm like, oh my god, there's a whole new plot. This is real. Like, I always thought it was a gag book until the movie came out. That has nothing to do with anything. I just thought it was funny. Wow, that's a lot of zombie titles.
Yeah, those are the most iconic I can think of that I know someone watching or listening to this will know of. The bottom one is Dawn of the Dead, which was actually, I believe, the sequel to Night of the Living Dead. This the one you're seeing in the screenshot, that's bottom right, is the remake by Zack Snyder.
Snyder?
Oh,
Snyder, yeah. Then you got Zombieland just above it, 28 Days Later on the left-hand side, and then Shaun of the Dead on the far left-hand side.
I heard Shaun of the Dead was pretty funny.
It was, maybe because I saw it too late in my life. It didn't stick with me as much as it did, but I know it's a cult classic, so I had to put it up there.
No, I agree. I mean, most of this stuff's pretty fun. I didn't know they remade the Night of the Living Dead thing. I wonder if the remake was any good.
The remake is, it doesn't beat the original.
About right.
It does not beat the original. The original set the tone for everything. The original, oh my goodness, set the tone. And of course, I gotta mention the video games now. Maybe Zed had played a couple of these video games that I will throw up on the screen soon. Oh, and of course, we can't forget The Walking Dead as well. But let me get some of these up. And
The Walking Dead, which I think spawned not only a very successful TV series, but also spawned a game and didn't it spawn a spin-off series?
it spawned everything.
So Zed, you've never seen an episode of The Walking Dead?
No.
Huh. I mean, even I've seen an episode of The Walking Dead, and I'm not a zombie.
If I have, I don't remember it at all.
Zombies walk, they shot him.
No shit, Sherlock.
So Zed, you never played Left 4 Dead or Dead Rising or The Last of Us? So
no.
Really?
I've seen some things from them, like some videos from them, but I've never played them.
Well, there you go.
So, to kind of also, Walking Dead, I don't think I need to say anything about how that affected the zombie in Hollywood. Again, I will say that The Walking Dead used to be a comic book originally, and then afterward, it was adapted into the TV series that blew up, and then I think even before the TV series, the video game, The Walking Dead video game by Telltale, was made, and then the TV series came out, I believe.
Nice.
But to go over these games, because a lot of these games are very iconic, you have first Left 4 Dead. This was released by Valve, one of the few games they released, Steam. This was regarded as a very brilliant game. Oh, sorry, cut out there. That if you saw Night of the Living Dead with the hordes of zombies, this was the video game version of that. You played at full
Okay.
players who had to move to the end of the level, surviving hordes and hordes of zombies coming at you the whole time. Dead Rising, kind of based off of the sequel, which was Dawn of the Dead, where the whole premise of Dawn of the Dead is survivors locked in a mall together, surrounded by zombies. In this case, you're playing as a reporter who was brought into a mall that completely got ravaged by a zombie outbreak, and you have to survive in a mall full of zombies.
Oh, is that the one that has all the bullshit weapons?
Exactly.
That make no
That's the
sense?
one where the guy is MacGyver and he make a bunch of BS weapons, and he's running around probably in a dress, running zombies over in a lawnmower or something like that.
MacGyver, nothing. Some of his weapons are straight out of Toon World.
It straight up is. And of course, everyone probably now know of The Last of Us, which is very similar, which started off as a video game and now is becoming a very famous TV series, which involves zombies being start off from a fungal infection and causing a bunch of people become zombies from that.
Which the fungal infection you recently told me has a direct relation to real life.
Yes,
With
let me get
with
that.
your aunt.
Yes, so let me see if I can get that. And so for those, and let me actually move on to that one. There is so The Last of Us was based, the creator straight up came up and said that he based the concept of a fungal virus outbreak off of this, what you're now seeing on screen, which is an ant that basically looked like he got a fungus growing out of it, which it does. Basically, there is a type of fungus that when it infects an ant or any type of bug, it forces the bug to climb, usually ants, it forces that ant to climb to a very high place, like a tree or a plant or something. And then it just stays there. It makes the insect stay there until it dies. Once it dies and the plant basically erupt, it will basically release the spores so it can spread and repeat the cycle. And the guy who made The Last of Us saw that, heard that story, and decided, that what if it could be applied to humans? And that's kind of where the inspiration for The Last of Us came from. And
Nice.
let's see.
It just goes to show. What
Let's
it goes
see.
to show is something I've always said. Is for all of you trying to preserve nature out there, this is what nature wants to do to us. Nature wants us dead. We need to kill nature before it kills us.
And any proof that nature want to kill me is just trying to say the actual word for that fungus. I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah, you're. No, not no.
Zed and Alchemist
Zed,
listen to me
chance?
trying to say this, and I could not say this. You want?
Ophiocordyceps unilateralis.
God
Well,
dang
shit,
it, Zed!
okay.
Damn it, Zed! Damn it!
It took me half a second, but I did it.
Kudos. I'm not willing to try.
I'm not gonna try. The OU word. That's what I'm gonna call it.
Just call it the OU fungus.
Yeah, the OU fungus. Heck,
Actually,
even
that's not a bad word
even
for it.
Wikipedia called it the zombie ant virus, the zombie fungus ant.
Which is, I get the joke, but in reality, there's more than just fungus that does this kind of
No,
thing.
there's multiple
parasites
that does
do this. But I can see the fear. I can understand.
I think that what made people really attached to this one in particular, because this one was one of the first one I heard about when people started freaking out about fungus infections and zombies. This is the one that people always goes to first, because you gotta admit, even for a lot of the parasites and stuff that make people do this, a fungus that infects something like an ant and make it go outside of its natural behavior of basically reacting off of pheromones and following the trails of other ants to deviate from that pattern, climb to a high place, and then willingly just stay there until it expires. That's
I
pretty
admit,
aggressive for a parasite or a fungus.
Yeah, no, it is aggressive for a parasite. Again, it's actually not the only one that does something.
It's not the
similar
only
to this,
one.
But no, I admit it's aggressive. But especially again, I think I'm not that surprised by it because I actually knew there was other stuff like this. Again, nature's scary, man.
No,
but,
nature is scary. This is the one that's just the most well known
Yeah, it's most
among a
well
lot of
known.
people.
No doubt thanks to The Last of Us popularity.
Yeah, no, now it's very well known because of The Last of Us. Before this, even I knew about this relatively because I heard about that, and I'm like, well, that's very weird of a parasite to make you do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it's a good point. So that again shows some of Hollywood's big, more influential parts, and this is how Hollywood is taking this and turned it into a global spanning monster, which is interesting because people don't really know the real story. I mean, zombies have become either this horrifying monster who eats people, but they can also be represented as they can also become a representation of mindless drones, people who just go along with the flow, never ask questions. You know, basically sheep who never ask questions, just go willy nilly to anything, even if it was their own death, which has been represented in zombie walks. Now, probably people have heard of zombie walks. It comes in two fashions. One, it's done for entertainment, where a large group of people will dress up like zombies and sometimes take narcotics, and they will go and walk through a city center, a town, and just pretend to be zombies. It's, I suppose it's fun. I personally find it a little strange, but again, I'm not a huge zombie fan. What do you two think? Do you think this is odd or like
I
for entertainment purposes?
I know the largest one I think got started Philadelphia because of Night of the Living Dead. I think it inspired the a bunch of people who tried the largest zombie walk.
I could believe that. Zed, what do you think? Kind of weird or like fun,
Eh,
like cosplayer wise or something? I don't know.
meh.
I mean, nothing against that. I mean, if you like it, well done. I mean, I'm glad you enjoy it. I just like, okay. To be fair, I don't see much point in cosplaying either, so I'm clearly not the right audience for this. But
Um,
again, this is for entertainment, and zombie walks, oddly enough, can also be a form of protest, where they're basically trying to talk about people marching off as drones. But to be fair, those are not done a lot because, well, I think you take away the fun of wearing makeup, and then if you put on makeup, nobody knows you're actually protesting. They think you're just doing it for entertainment. So the protest part doesn't happen that much. But again, this is modern media's interpretation of zombie and how it's just kind of blown up. And before we go into the real history of zombies, before we take a look at the myth that inspired this, because again, one of the big separations from zombies from other myths is that it's actually very clear cut where this comes from and how it started out. And the truth is actually a little terrifying. But before we do, we have one last piece of zombie genre to go into. So we're going to let Zed take it away with who is that monster Pokemon for zombies?
let me get
Zed, what do
that
you got for us and
ready.
why?
Well, ironically enough, I guess we're going back to the ants because I chose Parasect. When looking at the entire list of Pokemon, there's obviously nothing that rose from the dead zombie style. So the closest thing I could come up with was Parasect, which is, ironically enough, not the bug that it looks like, but the mushroom that's on its back.
So wait, is the bug an unwilling host?
Yes.
Aha!
Seriously?
Yes.
My ants begin. The fungus zombie ants begin.
A host parasite pair in which the parasite mushroom has taken over the host bug.
Well, then what's the hell's the host bug?
Well, it was alive at one time because
It was once a bug. now it's just a shell.
Damn. Okay, seriously, Pokemon is kind of dark.
Mushroom grows large on the host body that controls it. It scatters poisonous spores.
it was called a Paris, and you know what?
It was Paris, and then that happened.
You
to
know
it.
what? That makes sense because when it was Paris, its eyes looked very much alive and
It actually had pupils still.
yes. Whereas this case, it does not have the pupil. It was just it's literally almost it's almost creepy. Hang on, let me
Wow,
actually.
damn, I've never properly looked at this thing.
Yeah, wait a minute, because now we gotta do it side by side because There we go. You see? That's where Paris is in the upper left-hand corner. You can see its pupil. It looks alive. It looks fairly more approachable. But then when it evolved, yeah, it's... Wow, I never noticed that. Because the old sprites, you never could really tell. But looking at the artwork, it got dead eyes. No pupils.
Damn.
So possibly, yeah, maybe it is dead. Maybe it does need to be a ghost type.
Damn. Okay, well, okay, again, Pokemon. Maybe people should be paying more attention to this show. Like, it's kind of creepy. There are a lot of things in Pokemon that are creepier than I remember. But actually, it does kind of play with this whole body taking over into zombies' actual myth. But yeah, okay. Again, Zed, you've managed to continue to find Pokemon for monsters. So well done.
Yep.
Which the next chapter we're gonna do, you'll have no problem whatsoever. I mean, hell, even I can name some.
Which one's
But-
that one?
Well, slight spoiler for our next video, we're going to look at my personal favorite monster, dragons.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh,
Exactly.
there's gonna be so
Which
many
of the
pictures.
15,000? Let's see.
Oh, jeez, I'm just gonna have to throw up a picture of every dragon type Pokemon in the game and just drop that on there and put like a big screen. Oh, hell.
Yeah, no, there's going to be plenty for the next episode, and again, it's going to be one of my favorites because
That's probably gonna be a two-parter.
I love dragons. I think they're awesome. The mythology behind them is fascinating. So that's going to be fun. But anyway, so back to zombies. So now we're getting into zombies. Like I said at the start of this, zombies are real. And they're just not what we see. Because in reality, zombies are tragic figures. They're not corpses. They're not reanimated. They are a real person. They're not aggressive. They're actually very subservient. They're highly suggestive. And unless commanded, they will not hurt you. But they will basically do almost anything that you ask, though kind of half-assedly. And they do not eat human flesh. They don't. It's just that's not a thing. Now, the origin of this myth comes from its original place, Haiti. That is where this myth comes from because that's where they started. So, zombies were not the monster. They were created. They were created by Boker. Now, according to the mythology, the actual story of zombies, which is essentially an evil witch doctor from Haiti, he had the power to curse people. He could stop people's heart in an instant. And if you pissed off a Boker, or a Boker just decided not to like you one day, he could put a curse on you and you would die. He could make your heart stop. And once he killed you, then you had a real danger of the Boker deciding to come, bring you back to life. And then once the Boker brought you back to life, you belonged to the Boker. You had no life of your own. You were completely his, and you were subservient to the Boker forever. And the only way that you could be saved from the Boker was if the Boker was killed. If you managed to kill the Boker, you could be returned. But that's a big if. Otherwise, you would be forced to basically be his servant or his slave forever. And here's the thing, it is still happening. Not as much as it used to, but this practice of real-life zombies is still happening. Now that's the myth. So what really transpires here? Okay, so first of all, let's explain some of the process. So the first thing we've got is instant death. A Boker can cause instantaneous death. Well, he's not Rick from Rick and Morty, so there are really only two possibilities. One, he can actually cause curses, which, I'm kind of doubting that one for various reasons. Or, just maybe, they only appeared to be dead. Which one do you think is more likely?
I mean, is people were often mistaken for being dead to the point that they had to put bells on grave sites.
Again, good point. So, and in this case, though, they could actually be forgiven a little bit because, as it turns out, there are chemicals that can cause a person to seem dead. There's two in particular which are very well known for this. The most well known is tetrodotoxin, which comes from the pufferfish, which is what it's most well known for. Pufferfish being extremely poisonous. Tetrodotoxin is the toxin that comes from the pufferfish, and the other one, and the pufferfish is also known to be around Haiti. So they could actually get this fish in this area, which means that this is the most likely substance that a Boker would have used to make someone appear dead. Now, to be fair, he could have also used a compound called bufotoxin, which I don't think I pronounced that right. I think it's bufotoxin, probably simpler than I pronounced it. Bufotoxin, which causes similar effects, but unlike it doesn't come from a fish. This actually comes from frogs, various poisoned frogs. Which, well, if anyone's ever watched various shows like The Simpsons or Family Guy, people often will lick frogs to get a psychedelic high off them because they do secrete various toxins which you should not be putting in your body. There are poisonous frogs, which, believe it or not, some people have died from accidentally licking poisonous frogs instead of the frogs that will get you high.
That I know
Which,
very well.
yeah, which I'm sorry. You know what? Um, the Darwin Awards were invented for a reason. That's all I can say. So, if this drug is administered, it has some very nasty side effects, which I'm going to list off. One is prickling of the lips and tongue, facial numbness, and headache, sensations of lightness, floating, profuse sweating, dizziness, extreme salivation, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, rapid weakening and eventual paralysis of muscles, shortness of breath, abnormal heartbeat, low blood pressure, fixed and dilated pupils, coma, respiratory arrest, and seizures, to name a few. So, yeah. And of course, if too much is administered, you can actually die. So Bokers, if they used this type of toxin, which they probably did, Bokers more than likely use a toxin like this to make it seem like they had killed someone. More than likely, they got an idea of the right amount through trial and error. So they probably accidentally killed quite a few people before they realized how much of this they could give to where a person wouldn't die.
I think if it's going off of any of the tribes people, and since toads and pufferfish and other things would have been used, because I know a lot of tribes used to hunt using the toxin from animals such as frogs and pufferfish. So it's
Yes.
very likely they did this via with animals, and they just like, okay, does this weigh as much as an alligator? Yes, okay, then I'll use this much on this human.
Yeah, like I said, trial and error. It would have been definitely trial and error because it's just like with modern medicine today. How much they give you depends on how big you are. It depends on your immune system. It depends on a lot of things. You know, whether or not your heart can take it, various things like that. And it would have been no different with this. And with shallow breathing, severely lowered heart rate, and even unconsciousness, you could be forgiven, like the doctors of the time, kind of mistaking this for death. I mean, this is actually understandable because even experts would have been known to have a bit of trouble in seeing that someone's actually dead. Like if they're not really looking, then there's a good chance that they would think that they're dead. And then, well, what do you think happens? The person gets buried. So in reality, this would actually be pretty simple. All he has to do is claim he curses someone, and then later on, he slips this toxin into their drink, into their food, something like that. Once they eat it, they go through these symptoms, and hopefully they don't die, but are thought to be dead. And then the Boker claims, ha, see, you cursed him, or people saw him curse him. So really, all that's needed is first the presentation and then the effect. And that's part of Boker's power, which honestly is a lot of magic users' powers. Belief. So you can see how that works, right?
Yeah, no, I mean originally I've heard when I first heard the story of zombies, it was due to the Haitian myth of someone going up, casting a spell on someone, them dying the next day, and then them going out in the graveyard digging up their bodies.
Yeah, which is the Haitian myth.
Hmm.
That's exactly it. The only thing is, oddly enough, it's not really a myth. It did
No, it's
happen, and
real. It's straight up real.
yeah, no, it's 100% real. And like I said, too much can lead to death. But since a lot of them actually had entire plantations, by the way, this is real. There have been reports of people coming back after a Boker supposedly killed them. The Boker died, and they later came back after having worked on their plantation for years. So again, this doesn't happen as much anymore, but it does happen a bit, which we'll get into. Um, so the next part comes with the servitude. Well, how exactly do they make these people into their slaves after presumably bringing them back? Well, believe it or not, chemistry can also show what this did through a plant, which I'm going to butcher this plant's name, but I'm going to try it. Um, Datura stramonium, or scopolamine, as it's later on, or as it's called as its medicine. Now, it's also called the devil's breath, which, believe me, that is a name that is well earned. Because this, like, if any plant you could say the devil made, this would be primary category. Because this thing is awful. This plant can be made into a powder or a mixture that, when ingested, can actually rob a person of their. It can make them completely suggestive and completely compliant. So where you can be ordered around like a trained dog. This is very real. Now, it's especially dangerous not only because of this, but because of the symptoms. Once administered, it will start reacting in the first 15 to 20 minutes after exposure. And oftentimes, the victim needs to be strapped down to prevent self harm because it's mentally and physically horrifying what this does. And for 3 to 5 hours, the patient is very, very likely to die. Like, it is pretty bad. Now, if they do survive, their minds will be pliable and very easily exploited, which this happens a lot actually in South America and Central America, where people will be administered this drug and basically be forced to give all their life savings, forced to do a lot of things. And they will do it because they're completely compliant. They will do it without question. Which now there are rumors that this can be simply blown on the face and it'll affect. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of the stuff to do that. And if you wash your face, you will be fine. So more than likely, this is a rumor, kind of like the ninjas and the disappearing powder,
Because yeah,
where
that's kind of how I heard the story with the
yeah,
Haitian
no,
is apparently they would try the powder that they would blow in the face would also will not only have the devil breath but will also have the neurotoxin in it as well to kind of double dose them so it knocks them out and then they come in and then they re-administer the devil's
yeah,
breath later
no,
on.
you cannot give these two at the same time. It would kill them.
Yeah.
Like, there's no chance in hell. So the powder thing is mostly spear tactic. But don't get me wrong. If you're dosed with this stuff, you're in for a bad time, and it can definitely hurt you and basically force you to do almost anything. Because what it does is it completely affects your body's ability to produce acetylcholine, which it directly attacks the. I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to try it. Hold on.
If you can't say it, put in.
Cholinergic. Your cholinergic system, which produces the acetylcholine, are affected, causing it to basically stop. It doesn't hotwire this thing, it short circuits it. Because of this, you can't properly function. And you don't have any willpower to decide, okay, I shouldn't do this. You're completely open to any thought and suggestion because that's what this does, it blocks it. And unfortunately, there is no cure. There's only time. You have to wait for it to get out of your system. Now, the good thing is that it only lasts for a few days or a few hours, depending on the dose, but that's why the Boker had to keep dosing them. So that means that what actually happened is that people got away, not because the Boker died, but because they stopped getting the drug over and over again. Because the thing is, your body can't really build up an immunity to this, because it does directly affect parts of your brain that are needed for basically conscious thought. Now, the good thing about this is that this is difficult to make. It's not easy to make this mixture. Even chemists find it very difficult. And in respect for current victims, future victims, and past victims, I will not reveal how to make this. It was very difficult to find. I went into some less than scrupulous places to find out, and I'm not going to divulge that information because, frankly, nobody needs to know.
I think
Just,
nowadays
it's
it's
not necessary.
primarily used, not just for the slave labor, because I think it's primarily used nowadays to get victims to drain their bank accounts for you, pretty much. Now.
Yes.
Because that's the last modern day time I've been hearing about it, is people
Yeah, no, that still happens.
dosing elderly people or dosing family members to get inheritance and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, even tourists especially are very, very in danger of this. So guys and girls, if you're ever going to South and Central America, and good-looking women or good-looking guys come up to you and they're overly friendly, be very, very cautious because there's a chance that they will spike you with that. Like that's no, they've was straight legit said that. Like they have cases of that. So be warned. Don't trust anybody. I don't care if it sounds racist or anything else. Don't trust anyone.
Because yeah, that was the last modern that those were the recent modern day cases I heard was people were it was like the new way they were well, technically old fashioned way they would Shanghai you is, come up to you in the ball, put some of that in your drink, put not as bad as the neurotoxin, but put essentially a roofie in your drink. And then once you're inebriated, they'll take you, and then they will drug you again with that toxin to make you, well, very
Compliant.
compliant. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Make you more compliant, so that way they can either get you to give you their credit card and all your information, or all your financial information, or in the more horrible cases, you become a slave.
Yeah. Again, which is why I'm not revealing how to make that stuff because I'm sorry to all of you out there on the internet, you don't need to know. You just don't. Especially since I've looked into it, there's no real cure except for time.
That was it. The last case I heard, and I thought this was so freaky. Someone actually married someone,
Oh yeah.
and they used this drug, and they basically been feeding them this drug for the course of, like, literally, I think they were married close to a decade. So they
Yeah.
literally been drugging the person for a decade to make them compliant and to make them seem like that they was that person's spouse, so they could get the money
Yeah.
and live in their house and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, no, very, very dangerous. Now, to be fair, you're probably wondering like, why the hell does this even exist? Now, to be fair, scopolamine can have good effects if used properly, like anything. I mean, it can be used to prevent nausea and vomiting in the cases of motion sickness, or to prevent it from certain side effects of drugs they give you during surgery. So, believe it or not, this can be helpful if used in the right amounts, which is why it can be prescribed. But this stuff is not going to turn you into a zombie because it's properly manufactured not to do that. But like any drug, it can be abused. I mean, literally, that's true of every drug. You take too much of it or use it the wrong way, it can have dire effects. I mean, just look at how morphine has been abused through the days, or Oxycontin, or really any drug. You know what? Like, it's no different from any drug. It's just this one's a little bit, it's just anything that can rob you of your free will is terrifying. So that that is the original zombie. So that's the thing. They are completely true. But zombies are not monsters. They're victims. These are literally people who have had their lives stripped away and are being controlled by someone and being robbed of their free will for years on end, and just the hope that maybe the person controlling them will die. Which I'm not gonna lie, that's as someone who really likes their freedom, I find this terrifying. What about you guys? Slightly
So,
terrifying?
well, what got me is the White Zombie is pretty much the closest movie to the home, because the whole premise is the plantation owner have a literally plantation full of slaves, zombie slaves, and the guy who comes, the main character, is essentially trying to use his powers, quote unquote, to get a woman to fall in love with him, which would
Yep.
basically involve the same. If they're doing the realistic version, it would involve them essentially drugging her.
Yeah.
So actually, pretty close.
Take away the magic? Yeah, pretty much. Though I don't mind a movie not knowing how to make scopolamine properly. So again, I'm good with that. So with now that we know the original story of the zombie, what the truth is, that these people are victims and not monsters, the real question is, how did victims become monsters? Which I guess really we shouldn't be surprised that Hollywood would turn a victim into a monster, because, well, Hollywood kind of sucks. But that actually sounds like something that they do a lot. If you've been studying or listening to recent media about what's been coming out with Hollywood, especially for actors when they were younger. So maybe it's not that big of a surprise. But
Okay, in Hollywood's defense, and this is the
really?
one of the few times I will defend them.
Okay, go ahead.
Night of the Living Dead, technically, the zombies was. I mean, the zombie was just a reaction to the radiation, bringing dead people back to life. The horror of that film was not so much the zombies, but what people. If you've ever heard the trope, whenever seen in the movie trope, people put together during a disaster, the people are worse than the disaster.
Yeah.
That's Night of the Living Dead. That was the whole premise. Was a bunch of people being stuck in a house together during a disaster, which in this case was a zombie. The zombies really didn't get that many people. Yeah, you saw the zombies surround the house and try to break in a couple of times, but the real intensity of that film, the real horror of that film, was not knowing what the survivors would do to one another to try to survive.
So kind of COVID on steroids.
Yes. In fact, most I found that that's the biggest trend with the zombies in recent media. Ever since Night of the Living Dead, every zombie after that has not been about magic, but had been a zombie had been almost an analogy to a mass outbreak of some disease. Every zombie after Night of the Living Dead had been created via a disease of some type. 28 days later, that was a disease that broke out, a biological weapon they were making. The Last of Us, that one was more fungal, but that's again something that would be able to spread among people. The Walking Dead, that was I think that was implied to be a biological weapon or a disease. Dawn of the Dead, I don't think they ever said, but they treat it like a disease. Every zombie thing, they treat it like a disease. If you get infected via a bite or drinking the blood or something like that, you start to become a zombie. It's very similar to circle around, yeah, to a plague like COVID, of people being afraid that once you get infected, you're gonna get it, you're gonna die, or you're gonna spread it to someone else. And it's very much now zombies are more of just our fear of disease and outbreaks.
Okay. I guess I have to give Hollywood this one.
So
You
in a
got one,
sense,
Hollywood.
in
Don't
the
get
sense,
cocky.
the zombies are kind of the victims in the sense of they've been unwillingly infected and turned into these creatures, and now the survivors are trying to deal with that.
It's obvious I don't watch many zombie movies, so yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. Maybe I
Okay,
should start
I'm
watching
gonna
zombie
I'm
movies.
gonna make you watch Night of the Living Dead. I'm gonna try to force that on you too because that's a
Seriously.
travesty. Yeah, that you haven't seen that movie? Yes.
Okay, I'll consider it. I promise. Um, okay, but well, yeah. Still, I guess then, just how did it become the? Where did the flesh-eating part comes from? Really, is then becomes the question. Which, okay, so there's no absolute way to say where the flesh-eating came from, but from what I can understand, why this trope came about. So I go back mostly to original thoughts from the European explorers. So, European explorers, when they started really having shipping technology advancements and they started going all over the place and they brought language and technology and most importantly, superiority. But they started being introduced to all these new things, exotic creatures, these exotic tribes, and everything else. They discovered that the world's pretty big. Now, this is also, though, where rumors of primitives being cannibals really started. Which, people say, oh, the evil Europeans thought that every tribesman were cannibals. Well, yeah, they did. But to be fair to the Europeans, is the rumors are not completely unjustified because they did come across cannibals. I mean, that's just it. They did, and there are still cannibal tribes alive today. And while there's not that many, they were present. So it was a fear that when you were coming out to this new land, that you could potentially wind up in the hands of a cannibalistic tribe because there's no real way of knowing. Like, you're meeting foreign people. It's a strange new land. You don't know if these people are friendly. You don't know what they're going to do. And despite what people think, even though the Europeans had superior technology, when they're going into a new tribe, they're normally outnumbered. And I'm sorry, but numbers beats superior technology.
Tell
It's
that
kind
to
of
the
like,
Aztecs.
yeah. Well, not with the Aztec, but
Yeah, I'm about
well,
to
no,
say
actually,
yeah.
with the no, with the Aztecs, actually, you have to remember Cortez had help.
He had help, but again, they had vast numbers on him.
They did have vast numbers on, which is why Cortez actually did have to retreat. Remember, he did have to
He did
retreat and then
retreat.
actually bring his ships into the lake around the city. But also remember, he had help from every tribe
No,
against
he
the
he did
Aztecs.
incite tribes to do it as well, but the fact that he was still able to essentially overthrow them in their capital city.
Well, bear in mind, though, that's also because he took the emperor hostage.
Yeah, but at one point they stopped caring.
No, they did stop carrying. That's when he had to escape. But that's my point: is that numbers, while technology is a great thing, numbers does normally trump it. I mean, that's just that's how it is. So these Europeans did have something to fear in going to these new places. They might actually meet cannibals. So that's the thing. It's not completely unjustified. And this is how these myths kind of combined and turned into part of this because these are things, myths are misinterpreted. A good example of a misinterpreted myth would be the actual purpose of a voodoo doll. When people think of a voodoo doll, they think of a Hollywood trope of a doll that is made to look like someone, and then you put pins and needles in it, and that person feels the pain of the doll. So there's this magical psychic link between the doll and the person where they can inflict pain, and it's a bit of torture for them. But that's actually not true. That's not what the voodoo doll was at all. The original voodoo doll, believe it or not, was akin to a medical chart. What they did is they made a doll that looked like the person, and the pins and needles were meant to show where that person had pain. So if the person came back, the doctor, the healer, could look at the person's voodoo doll, see if they had a pain in the same place or was someplace different, and then know a little bit more how to treat them or if they use something more. So, believe it or not, while slightly crude, it was actually a very advanced medical record. I mean, creepy looking, yes, but the voodoo doll was a medical record. And what this really shows is the importance of sharing cultures. Because if you don't share your culture, if people don't understand what they're looking at, this is how these rumors happen. This is how a medical record turns into, a torture device. So that's why you definitely should be able to share your culture so that they can survive.
I don't know, arguments. Nowadays, some people will regard the doctors as a torture,
That's
a
true.
torturer. So I don't know.
Okay.
I think they were pretty spot on with the food.
Okay, fair enough. But regardless, they weren't supposed to be torture devices. Okay, granted, again, a doll looking like someone with a bunch of needles poking out, doesn't look good. I mean, I think we can all agree with that. Like Zed, you can agree that doesn't exactly look good, right? Zed?
That depends. Is the doll currently in the process of being made?
Oh, the one on screen?
No, I mean, if you had a doll with a bunch of needles sticking out of it, if it's in the process of being made, then I'd say that's fine.
No, it's a finished doll.
Oh, is it a Cabbage Patch Kid?
No.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, no, nothing you do to a Cabbage Patch Kid is wrong. Those things are creepy as hell. They're like the Furbies. They steal your soul.
Oh,
yes, if you have Furbies, burn them. They will steal your soul. And they must be dealt with fire.
That's a real zombie. Oh, trust
Damn
me, you
right.
don't want to burn a Furby. Have you ever seen it without its fur?
Yes.
It's horrifying.
They're already horrifying.
Well, its fur is literally something out of freaking the Terminator.
That's true. Ugh. Anyway, but yeah, that's the importance of sharing cultures. Because if you don't, this is where your culture gets misinterpreted and honestly where your culture gets lost. So by all means, learn more about cultures, share yours together, because that's how you prevent a victim from turning into a flesh-eating monster. But bottom line, the zombie is one of the unique ones that we're going to be looking at because the zombie is 100% real. But they're not monsters. They're sadly very unfortunate victims, which are still around to this day. So if you're ever in Central and South America and someone comes up to you, looks like they might try to put something in your drink, all I can say is run. Anything you guys want to add to that?
So, yeah, only thing I can add is just the Hollywood point of everything. Yes, now I can't help but think we're probably going to see more zombies. I don't know. Maybe it'll die down because people got really kind of depressed after COVID and I mean, again, all of the zombie media, they treat zombies like a disease. And I haven't seen a zombie movie that made the zombies based off of magic. Not since Jason. Friday the 13th was literally the last time I think I saw a movie with a zombie that was based off of magic. Because other than Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th series, every zombie I've seen up to this point have been created via radiation or disease or some type of chemical or some type of insert your random science mumbo jumbo magic here. And
that sounds about right.
And zombies are always treated as almost like a disease more than a monster in those movies. Something that you can't really you can't really early destroy a lot of diseases. You just gotta learn to adapt and deal with them.
I mean, that's pretty much true of every disease.
Yeah, and that's how the zombies are always treated. Look, I don't know. I know you saw part of The Walking Dead. Eventually, they stopped trying to cure it, and they just started trying to learn to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what mostly you deal with diseases because despite what people think, vaccines are not magic potions that suddenly cure you. Vaccines are, in fact, just the disease. They're literally giving you an inert form of the disease, allowing your body to create T cells and antigens so that you're naturally defend the real thing. You're literally building up an immunity to it in a safe way. That's what a vaccine is. It's not a magic potion from video games.
Nor will it turn you into a zombie.
No.
Which
Nor is it a government tracking device.
we got
The government tracking device. The government tracking device is your cell phone.
And I guess to throw in a
They
little
are
bit
always
more
listening.
with the zombies and Hollywood and popular culture, I'm seeing now a bigger trend of zombies being created via a biological weapon. And I gotta say, as that concept, I can see any military in the world wanting the zombie virus as a weapon, because could you imagine if a government got a weapon, a virus, a biological virus that when infected was spread very rapidly via a bite or just via a corpse, and it was spread to victim to victim to victim indiscriminately, and the more people who get it, the more it's spread, and it basically can destabilize essentially an entire population in mere moments. I mean, that's like the ideal biological weapon people are looking for half the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and what you're left with is 10% of the population immune.
Yeah, which is how a lot of the zombie movies go. The Last of Us, the whole premise was them trying to get Ellie, that little girl, to a place because he was one of the few people who was immune to it, and they wanted to study her.
God, I hate. Okay, I'm sorry, but that trope pisses me off. That is not true. That is not how vaccines. Okay,
Oh no,
I'm sorry, but no, I'm going into this because this pisses me off. Because so
I've started
is,
something.
Yes, I am actually naturally COVID. I was immune from the start. Like, I've literally been around 12 people while they were infected and didn't get it. And because of my job, I had to be tested quite often. And even the doctors said, okay, look, after all the people you've been around, because my whole family got COVID and I was around them constantly and I didn't get it. He said, okay, look, you're either immune or you're so asymptomatic that you're not even going to test positive. But the thing is, and yeah, so I was immune to COVID, and to this day, I still haven't gotten it, despite being around quite a few cases. But the thing is, when I went around other people and I mentioned this, there was a couple people who said, "Oh, well, why don't you go to the CDC and tell them that?" I'm like, why? So that they can like take samples of your blood and get a cure. I'm like, that no, that is not how this works. Okay, this is a Hollywood trope, and it's complete BS.
Alchemist,
My
the
immune
chosen
system,
one.
like, no, it's complete bullshit. That is not true at all. My immune system works only for me. Okay, my T cells, my ability to fight off COVID will not help you. They can look at it, but it's not going to do anything because my immune system only works for me. They can't give you my immune system. That is not how vaccines work. That has never been how it works. How they do it, the reason vaccines take so long is they have to take the virus. They have to get a pure sample of the virus and make it inert. That's the only way to make a vaccine. You don't get a magic potion by studying someone who's immune. It doesn't happen. That's not true. Hollywood has been promoting that crap. It is bullshit science. It's not true. Stop thinking that.
So again, as someone who haven't played The Last of Us, I can only hope, because again, I've only seen bits and pieces of that scene, and I can only hope that what they was gonna pull from her was going to be the dead versions of, well, technically the zombie outbreak in The Last of Us is a fungal infection, so I don't know what the hell they're pulling from her, because
It's a fungal infection that grows around the brain. They wanted to pull the thing from around her brain since it wasn't.
Okay, I
changing
didn't
her.
know it grows into the brain itself. That I didn't know. Okay. Again,
Well,
I haven't played
that-
The Last of Us. I only knew that it
Again,
was
I
based
haven't
off
played
of
it. I've seen that scene though.
Okay, because I knew it was based off of the ants. So I didn't know if they went the full 9 yards and they put the little plant the fungus that was supposed to grow within the body for the infected. So it sounded like they did. So okay.
Yes,
so
they did.
In that fairness, they did have a actual mass they wanted to pull out.
Still a little bullshit,
It
but
is
not much
it's
better.
a little bit more favorable because in this case they can make the
That's why I
argument
said a little.
they don't want to pull it from a random zombie because that's a active one, whereas the ones he have is inert, and they want to study to see what made it inert.
Okay, that's a little better,
That's a
not
little
much.
bit. It's not much, but that's a little bit more logic
Yeah.
than the previous way. That the
Yeah,
World
it's
War
still
Z.
bullshit.
It's not like
It's still
World War
bullshit.
Z type stuff where they literally were just trying to find patient zero.
Yeah, no, it's some bullshit, but it's a little bit better. But no, so for all of you out there who think that, that's not how medicine works. Medicine is not magic potions from Zelda games, okay? It's not. Learn how your medicines work.
And then the last little bit I will throw in, the zombie that I have been using for the generic zombie is from a game, from one of my favorite zombie game, Plants vs. Zombie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the zombie that you've been seeing from the very start, the one you currently are seeing, that's from a game called Plant vs. Zombie. Fun little game. You set up, basically zombies are attacking your backyard, so you gotta set up plants that will attack the zombies.
Gotcha.
That one I got no real logic or real thing for. It's just a fun little game.
There's no
Okay,
logic.
no,
Someone just came up with it, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if the
Gotcha.
zombies are magic or whether they're diseased. I don't think they really say. They just
I
say,
think they just exist. I
No,
don't know what it is. But
they just say zombies are attacking. I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah, it's just they're there.
Okay.
Also, kicking myself for not bringing up the Minecraft zombies.
Oh, boy.
Zombies are in Minecraft. One of the first mobs people will fight in Minecraft are zombies. So they're in almost every type of media nowadays.
That's true. That's very true. They kind of exploded with Hollywood. Just that.
Night of the
It
Living
took
Dead
off.
is where they took off.
Yeah, it just took off.
And with good reason. Good movie.
Yeah.
Black and White, Don't Let It Deter You is a great movie to watch because most kids nowadays will watch it and say, oh, this is just very tropey. It's like, yes, because all the tropes started here.
Yeah, I'm more amazed that kids can watch anything past 6 seconds.
Yeah, that's also true. Well, there's more analogy for zombies. I mean, some people will argue the current generation is more zombie-like than ever.
I argue the current generation is the safest from zombies because they don't have anything to.
I don't know. Have you ever seen you seen the current generation looking at the phones? I mean, that's pretty zombie-like to me.
Yeah, I know, but the zombies, if they do come up, will have nothing to feed on.
No, they'll come after us first.
Yeah, I know. That we're the ones who need to worry. The rest of them, they'll be fine. Zombies will be like Homer Simpson with the zombies, sniffing for brains and going, ugh, nothing there.
Treehouse of Horror, I believe number 5 or 6 or something like that.
I have no idea.
They're on like 27 or something like that. So
Probably. Okay, and well, that's really all I have on. Any other thing you guys would like to add to it?
I said all my pop culture stuff.
Zed, you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, then, as always, if you'd like more information on this research or any other one covering, you can look up the book Probable, Possible, Plausible, an explanatory guide to monsters and myth, which is available on Amazon.
It'll be linked in the description like always.
And please join us next time or leave a comment if monsters you'd like us to look over. And next time, we again are going to be covering my personal favorite monster, the dragon.
Man, that's going to be like a 5-parter or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no, there's a lot to the dragon, so that might be a couple of episodes. But it'll be a wild ride because dragons are insanely interesting, even without pop culture.
Chinese, Japanese, Korean, African, South American, Mesoamerican.
Mesopotamia.
Yeah, Mesopotamia. Oh, jeez, that's literally Norse. Oh, jeez, that's dragon every freaking culture.
Oh, yes, but we also have to watch it because sometimes... so I might not mention some dragons in the dragon thing. I saved them for sea serpent instead, and there's a reason why. So if I'm missing dragons, they're probably going to be in the sea serpent section we'll cover in a later episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, Join us next time for Dragons. No matter what, it's going to be interesting. And as Zed said, he's going to have plenty of material for Pokemon.
Yeah, there's a whole type for dragon.
Yeah, there's literally a dragon type. Even I know that.
So, oh, jeez.
All right, and with that, we will see you next time.
See ya.
Later.